and welcome to Inner Circle Guidance. Today we're going to be doing a collective reading, but for those of you who are new to the circle, hello and welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I post new videos every single day. And if you're looking for personal services or personal readings, I offer them through my website, innercircleguidance.com. Let's find out what the circle needs to know today. We have the Six of Wands. We have the Strength card. We have the Eight of Cups. We have the Two of Swords. We have the Queen of Cups. We have the Queen of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck. I'm going to get clarity on this Two of Swords. We have the King of Cups. We have the Ten of Cups. That's interesting. With the Six of Wands, I'm seeing that there has been a decent amount of success in the past, a good amount of growth, forward movement. But with the Strength card being right next to this card, and with this man who's like peeking out behind the wands, sort of sticking out to me here. There is a member of your inner circle who I think feels like they're always trapped on the outside in some way. This may be somebody you work with, or this may be somebody who you're creative with, or this could be a friend of yours or somebody in your family. But regardless of what kind of relationship it is, I'm picking up on there's sort of this wall between the two of you. The person who's on the outside of the wall feels like they should be more involved on the inside of the wall, or feel like they are being left out in some sort of way. I'm picking up on a little bit of a jealous energy here, of an energy of wanting. It may be that this person doesn't necessarily wish you harm or anything like that, but they are sort of jealous of the way you're able to move forward, or they're inspired by it at the same time, but it's still sort of this wanting energy. It's like they want to stand in your light because they feel like that light will rub off on them. What I'm seeing with the Strength card is there's a lack of authenticity here. It's not lack of authenticity in the relationship, although I can pick up on an energy of maybe there is some dishonesty here. Not because the other person necessarily means you harm, but because the other person is not being honest with themselves. With the Strength card, there's sort of this front that's being presented here of being strong, of being vital, of being important, tapping into inner strength, being in tune with themselves. What I'm seeing is that there is sort of this outward projection that they are putting on, but inside there's a lot of muck and a lot of mess. I'm really seeing that they are trying to sort of go on a journey of self-discovery and figure out exactly who they are and who they want to be. And I'm seeing that the two of you are sort of in the same space in that sense, because I'm also picking up on an energy where you are also going on a journey of self-discovery, but it's sort of like there's an energy here where you're on two different sides of that coin. One of you knows more about who you really are and is more authentic towards self and more self-aware, and is able to kind of take the different lessons from the karmic relationships and cycles of the past and move forward. The other one is sort of still stuck in sort of these presentations of self versus who they really are. I'm very much picking up on it that this person doesn't really know who they are and what they want at the end of the day. There's a disconnect between what they think they want and what they really need. I'm seeing it's causing some friction here between your relationship, because it's causing things to sort of come at a standstill where a decision is having to be made. And what sucks is that the decision is hard. This is not a fun decision, because you're picking between sort of this heavy energy of the King of Cups, which is somebody who's mastered their emotions and is kind of unfazed even in tumultuous water. Someone who can remain calm and collected with their emotions, be very self-aware and in control of themselves, to where they are using their emotion as an amplification of themselves and to deeper understand themselves instead of to use it as a weapon. But it's still sort of like a choice between having to be the calm person in the tumultuous water and actually being fulfilled and happy in the relationship. And I'm seeing that for you, this is important because this is a pattern that has not been broken in your cycle of karma, where you still are sort of being this strong person, you're sort of being the rock for everybody. But in order to usher in more fulfilling relationships, you have to learn when to draw the line. And what I'm seeing is there's a bit of overgiving on your part because the Queen of Pentacles is on the bottom of the deck. And my interpretation of the Queen of Pentacles is usually, in most readings, somebody who has not fully mastered the art of energetic transaction, who has not fully figured out the correct boundaries that need to be in place, who maybe even recognizes the boundaries but doesn't uphold them. Some of this has to do too with the Queen of Cups is an energy of somebody who hasn't quite mastered their emotions. There's a deeper understanding of the emotions that need to happen. And I think that largely gets back to this King of Cups energy where you're choosing to be the rock and you're choosing to be the leader and choosing to be that person in the tumultuous water instead of stepping out of that position to be in a more fulfilled life and more fulfilled relationships. This is something that I'm seeing affects you in a lot of ways. This affects the way that you are creative. This affects your job. This affects your family, your friends. This is an underlying pattern that I think needs to be adjusted in order for things to move forward. And I feel like this particular person that you are having issues with is the reflection of that problem. It is the mirror to show you where the issue lies that still has not been corrected so that you can move on to an energy that is more self-serving and more in alignment with abundance and happiness. You're still giving your time and energy to these situations that are not benefiting you, and it comes from your self-worth and a lack of self-worth. It's coming from you feeling like you need to be taking care of everyone else and you're still lacking in taking care of yourself because you feel like you have to be a caretaker to the other people in your life. For some of you, this is sort of unintentional. You kind of accidentally fall into this role. For others of you, I see that you intentionally put yourself here because you intentionally put yourself as the caretaker of the people in your life because you're overgiving. And that comes and stems from a need of validation from the relationship and or you need to feel important in that person's life instead of allowing the other person to make you important in their life and have it be more equal and reciprocal. You have been this caretaker for a long time. And I'm not really sure if this person has picked up on that because, like I said, there is a disconnect between honesty with themselves and there's a disconnect between what they present as themselves and who they really are. This is somebody who's not fully come into their power yet. But ultimately, you need to figure out where this pattern is in your life so that you can correct it. I know this is kind of a long reading, but I feel like I need to take one more card for some reason. So I'm going to take one more card. Just final guidance on this situation. I just heard that some of you watching are actually the person who's on the outside. So for those of you who are struggling with this sort of coming to self, this gets into having a deeper understanding of your emotions and why you want other people to care for you, why you need the other people in your life to always be the rock for you instead of you being the rock for yourself. That message just came through. I'm still going to take one card because I feel like there's still something else that's meant to be coming through here. The Lovers. This has to do with the choices that you make. And we have the Magician on the bottom of the deck. Yeah, this has to do with choices that you're making on either side. What's interesting here is that I'm picking up on that this is very much being divinely guided, even though it feels really negative. Or can feel really negative, because I am picking up on sort of a frustrated energy. The Magician sort of has to do with as within, so without. So what's interesting too, we have 2 of the infinity symbols here. So one thing about being eternal that I think will give you a different perspective on this situation. When something is eternal, there's no past and there's no future. And what I mean by that is you are constantly in a state of being in the present, because time, if you are talking about an eternity, doesn't exist. Some of you are getting too caught up in the choices from your past, and some of you are getting too caught up in the choices for a future that you want to manifest, but it's not completely in alignment with either what both of you really want or what one of you really wants, or there's like a disconnect there between authenticity here. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Some of you are holding on to things that were never meant to be yours. That's ultimately what I think this gets down to. You're holding on to something that is not yours. And for those of you who are in the caretaker position, you are meant to be stepping into a more supportive role, where you are supportive of the people around you and they support you. Now, there's times when you can lean into a caretaker position. Obviously, if someone gets sick, or, a member of your family is having a really hard time, or a friend of yours, and you need to care for them because they're not caring for themselves. But there's a line here that has not been drawn that is taking up a lot of your manifestation skill, and it's also getting in the way of more authentic timelines that you could be having. For some of you, part of this has to do with self-love and self-care, and understanding that you are responsible for you and taking that accountability of nobody can make you feel anything unless you allow it. That goes for the positive and the negative things. When you give away your power and you make these excuses for behavior, or you make these excuses for why things are a certain way in your life, you are making it to where you have no power in the situation, because you are giving it away by saying that, oh, it's because of this, that, or whatever. When you take accountability for yourself, your actions, your decisions, your thoughts, it allows you to be the controlling factor. For those of you who still feel like you're manifesting things in your life that are unwelcomed, this is the lesson that you have not learned, that has to do with this sort of King of Cups energy of being the rock for other people and not being one for yourself, of being calm in tumultuous situations where you're choosing to stay in that situation instead of moving to better, or moving into a place that's better. This has to do with your choices. For some of you, this has to do with the way that you perceive love and the way that you also give love. There's a disconnect here on that aspect that gets into inner child work and gets into default settings and gets into healing from your past. And I'm seeing that for both of you, regardless of which side you're on. If you're, the guy on the horse, or you're the person who's looking around the wall. It has to do with your choices, and it has to do with being active in your own future and taking accountability for it. In order to achieve a very high tier of manifestation and to be living an extraordinary life, that means you have to be very accountable for your actions. You have to be very responsible for yourself, because for the universe to give you that kind of power and for you to step into that power, which was always yours, you have to recognize you have it in the first place, and then you also have to use it. Some of you are still playing the victim in this situation. And I'm seeing that from both sides, depending on what your situation is, because I don't feel like the person who's the caretaker is completely not at fault. And I don't feel like the other person who's on the other side of the wall is completely not at fault. There's fault here on both sides. Recognizing that and taking the accountability for it is going to allow you to move forward in a more positive way. Like I said, this is being divinely guided. It's being guided so that either one, this relationship heals finally, or two, or both, that you're able to move forward in a way where you are in more authentic alignment with your life purpose. So I'm going to leave the reading here because I feel like I'm going to start just repeating things I've already said at this point. But your affirmation for this reading, for those of you who are in the caretaker space, your affirmation is, I can step into a more supportive role in my relationships. If you are on the other side, and you're the person who always needs the rock and always needs somebody else to validate them, or who is still struggling a lot with authenticity, you have two affirmations. The first one is, it is safe for me to be my authentic self. And the other one is, it is safe for me to rely on and trust in myself and support myself. It is safe for me to be the rock for myself. And as always, may your life be full of light, full of love, abundance, and gratitude. I'll see you next time.